may begin. Welcome to the Wings Event Center and Kalamazoo Curling Club in Kalamazoo, Michigan for the 2023 USA Curling Mixed Doubles National Championships. 16 teams are competing for the right to represent the United States at the 2023 Mixed Doubles World Championships in Gangneung, South Korea. 2 teams of 8, 2 pools of 8 will be competing in round robin to advance to the playoff round. This morning on commentary, myself and USA Curling Board Chair Brett Jackson. Brett, thanks for having us in your hood up here and joining us in the commentary.
Yeah, glad to be here and really excited.
Our feature game this morning will be between the Hamlin siblings, Matt and Becca, and 2022 Mixed Doubles Olympic team, Vicky, Persinger, and Chris Plys. Second time we've seen those two in this tournament. We see pictures of Schuster and Christensen, as again, John needs all the screen time he can get. He's never on. Both teams coming off the win in their first game. This is the second game of the round robin for Pool A. This morning's game will have 4 games of action for you here on this Wednesday. Busy 3 days coming up with 4 draw days for each of the next 3. Teams play 2 games each day. Brett, we're seeing a lot of curl so far in the first 2 draws. Talked with head ice maker Sean Olison that for the mixed doubles format, that's by design, that they're trying to get as much curl as they possibly can to play more into the style of game with all the rocks piling up in the center.
Yeah, I think they were really aggressive. I think the folks on the ice crew that I talked to said they 60 grit sandpaper. They're really trying to get those rocks to carve in. It should be really make for exciting shots, and that's what you want in these doubles.
Nice frame of the button there by Plys on that draw.
I'm not sure he just didn't pick it up and place it there.
I didn't see it thrown. Maybe we need to check that one with the officials. I'm not sure I've seen those things.
He's got a big old smile on his face. He's happy.
Yeah, one thing we did see with the ice, though, Brett, and I expect this to maintain throughout the week, that if you threw anything more than really back 8 weight, the line change considerably. It was very weight sensitive, so the hits really weren't curling near as much. We saw a little bit more curl on hits in draw 2 from draw 1, but it rewards precise shot making because there's a significant amount of difference in curl based on the weight that you threw.
Yeah, I saw some shots last night where, you know, someone was just trying to tap back a shot for just like a foot to get 2, right? And they just took way too much ice, threw perfect back line, but it just sailed on them, and they didn't get the curl at the end to get that tap back, and they gave up 1 instead of what is not an easy shot because it was partially bind covered, but certainly a makeable shot. So the ice is tricky.
Yeah, the majority of the misses on those types of shots, those taps and back house weight types of shots, were on the wide side. We remarked during the first game when Burgers were playing against Vicky and Chris that it was very similar to the ice in Blaine, where that break line for the amount of curl that you get is closer to back 12 back line than it is hack or board weight, which is normally where you see that difference in where the break line is for curls. So it ran considerably straighter, even with that small difference in the weight that you throw. So we'll see if that maintains throughout the course of the week. But we do like conditions that reward precise shot and preciseness with weight, which we're definitely going to see throughout this competition.
Right, and I think that's a difference between curling here at a national championship and curling at your club, right? So at your club, if you've got 4 feet of curl, you can generally expect about a foot of curl for control weight takeout or something. At a national championship level, it's way more weight sensitive.
There are our Hamiltons, Becca and Matt, former national champions and Olympians in the mixed doubles field and in the men's and women's fields. That would be Rebecca for women's and Matt for men's. And Vicky Persinger and Chris Plys, again, our reigning Olympic team from 2022. Many national championships to their names. Chris picked up appearances as well on the men's side. Here are the rest of the draws for this morning's game. Sheet B, Fountain Cott versus Rohrbacher and Skebby. Sheet C, Ryan Smith versus the Burr squad. Sheet E, Geving and Schuster versus Moores and Wheeler, and our featured game. On sheet D, the Hamiltons against Persinger and Plys. We're going to do our best to lay out as much as we can during this game, as you can already hear Chris and Matt talking throughout. Here are the standings for Pool A. Fountain Cott, Geving, Schuster, Hamilton, and Persinger Plys all on the board with that first victory. Burrs, Moores, Wheeler, Rhymes, Smith, and Rohrbacher Skebby looking to get their first W's of the week. Pool B, the opposite side of the night draw last night, Anderson, Richardson, and Taylor Anderson with Ben Richardson, Sarah Anderson, Stapera, Strauss Casper, and TC Dropkin all 1-0. Hookout Wiesa, Mulaney Sinnott, Nickel, and Poto Perry all at 1. Not sure if you have the player mics going yet, as we do here in the booth, but Matt Hamilton reciting the Pledge of Allegiance before this game.
We'll begin with the introduction of Sheet Bravo. Sheet Bravo, Melissa Culp with Tony Buck. And Harley Rowan.
That with our first F-bomb of the week before the game even gets going. This is perfect. In our element. So Brett, before we get the game started, talk a little bit about the process of the championships came to Kalamazoo for the season.
Well, we want to try to bring the championships to as many clubs as we can, or areas of the country that have curling clubs. To really get the support not only of the city and county, as we did with Discover Kalamazoo here, but also just have that volunteer base and really get some excitement going in a particular area to help grow the sport in that area. So I think coming to Kalamazoo was a really natural fit. As I said earlier, the volunteers have been fantastic, and they really are going all out to fill the needs of the championship. But at the same time, I think they're having fun being around the athletes. Make those connections is really special for them.
Yeah, I could speak from experience to the men's and women's events that were held here in 2010, 2015 that I played in, and then the 2019 event that I had attended. The volunteers, the support from the community, a well-run events where everybody involved. It makes it so much easier on the players that you don't have a whole lot you have to worry about. Just go play your games. Everything's going to be taken care of, and that was always the case with every event that we've had here in Kalamazoo. So I'm sure from the players' side of things that are involved in the mixed doubles, that if they had played in those previous championships here, that they were excited to see a national championship coming back to Kalamazoo for those reasons.
Yeah, big thanks to John Beebe, president of the Kalamazoo Curling Club, and maybe Chairman or Emeritus Marcus Gleaton.
Yeah, I was trying to think of what title to give him, so I just kind of referred to his Kalamazoo's own when he did the game with us yesterday. But, yeah, he doesn't have a proper title for everything he does for these events, so that might be what we go with.
There we go.
Emeritus, I like that. That's probably the role he would like to have too, because it sounds like less responsibility when you're emeritus. It's after the fact, just filling in however you can.
Yeah, so here the games were going away, right? First rocks coming down the sheets.
Matt already on the officials to start the clock for Chris and Vicky. We do have both teams' player mics going this morning, and with the well-known friendship between Chris Plys and Matt Hamilton, I'm sure we'll let them carry the weight for a lot of this game and listen into that conversation that they'll have. First draw from Vicky ends up going deep, and Brett, exactly what we talked about already, that difference in line, or difference in weight with how much that curls up, doesn't get to that stone, overburies behind it, but that curl just doesn't hit until far later in the sheet, throw it in back line weight.
Yeah, and the Hamiltons have a great chance here to just go to the top of the house, right? Create some space above the set rock in the back four, and really put pressure on Vicky and Chris to make some shots.
Becca Hamlin with a nicely thrown stone right to the top of the 4 foot to get things going for Team Hamilton.
Yeah, well done right there.
See a lot of energy from the Hamilton squad, as that is the hallmark for Matt in particular. Tend to be an animated team, very fun to watch. I have to assume that somewhere out there, Scott and Kathy are watching their children play. Good morning, guys. Hope you're doing well wherever you're at. Here's Plys' first stone of this morning game. Out-turned tap coming around the guard. Line looks good. Just trying to push this behind the tee line.
Really well executed.
Not very well done. Really important shot early in the game, early in the stand, to not let the Hamiltons pile up stones in the house. You may have seen a nail shot run had they not executed that tap. But now that all-important spot, position at the top of the fours, Brett, the teams are always jockeying for with mixed doubles, that top of the 4 foot, even though it's not shot rock for Vicky and Chris. That position is the most important one in this game.
It is, and what makes that last shot so spectacular is the ability to push it behind the tee line. You know, a rock that was in that power position, and still sit in replace it essentially in a position of power. It's really, really great in mixed doubles, and probably undervalued.
Hamilton trying to throw the freeze here. Bounces just a touch, but not a bad position. Vicky and Chris looking to play the tap on that stone. Chris talking about the weight they're throwing. Maybe a touch less because they want to make sure this doesn't chip over the top and they get the right line. Talking about the split time that they're throwing, 4-0. Ice pretty fast for that to be enough to be a tap. That would indicate probably back 8, back 12 type of weight.
Yeah, and
still with a 4-0 split. It's
just looks like it's hanging out there, just as we talked about. And it's going to sail right on through.
Yeah, that's considerably more weight than Chris was attempting to throw to. Gross is his call. Still a 4-0 on that split. That was through the house weight. So as fast as we've seen it, we heard from Vince Skebby last night when he joined me in the booth that the hog-to-hog times were 15 and higher for a drawing the butt, which for those in the know in the curling world, that's extremely fast. Matt Hamilton playing the intern. Likely just playing to a freeze, trying to set up the angle so they can clear the yellow stones.
I think Becca thinks it's a little warm. They're finding that same track that Chris did on his last shot.
Yeah, Brett, we did see in both the games we had yesterday were on the end sheet, on sheet E.
Right.
And we saw that the curl coming off of the wall side was a little more significant than the opposite side, and the speed was a little different as well. Teams were coming up short, coming off of it. It'll be interesting to see if that's the same with sheet D, as we are seeing that intern coming down, going towards the wall. That would be the straighter side on the end sheet. Same thing, faster and straighter. Both teams missing on that side early.
Well, I think just judging by where the rock ended up, the line was fine. I just think, 6 feet less weight, it's perfect.
Less weight, this should climb, get to that stone.
He's trying to curl. Oh, that's really fantastic.
Nice shot there by Plys. That's a big one with those red stones piling up in the house without hammer. You really need to make that one.
There is a slash double there, and I think that they're going to take a run at it. It'll be interesting to see how many reds would go. But I definitely think with how lively the rocks are, that this doubles there, and red could be sitting quite a bit after the shot.
It's staggered the wrong way for the double, but there is a little bit of space between those two. So Hamilton, in playing this, wants to hit as little of that second yellow stone as possible, to move their own stones as little as possible.
Wow.
Just that's half an inch from perfect. Instead, yellow still sitting too. Really wanted to move those stones, Brett, at the very least, and unlock that. Because now it's going to be really difficult to remove that just with one shot without losing a bunch of your own red, too. So the chances of getting a big end probably just went up.
Yeah, absolutely. And Becca pounded that one the whole way, right? So it wasn't for lack of trying, just ever so slightly. As I said, half-inch difference between a really fantastic shot and one where Chris and Vicky are in maybe even a good spot to steal.
Things can turn very quickly in the mixed doubles game. Now with this position set up for Persinger and Plys, Vicky likely trying to take away any kind of slash in, maybe just by getting another counter in. See where they elect to leave this stone. Final stone of this first end for Team Persinger Plys. Intern side.
This one's running on her a bit, I think. Oh, here it is.
Just trying to carve this in. You don't want to leave it right on the corner of it. Well, depends on how much they can see. It doesn't look like much, so that may be good enough.
I think hitting what they can see is what Becca really wants to do, but she's asking your brother if he thinks it's there.
Yeah, it's unlikely that it would be. If they made it perfect and it worked out exactly how they wanted, it might still just be one anyways. Be a little bit of a risk early here to play the shot that could give up a multiple point steal. Not that it's difficult in doubles to come back from a 2-point deficit, but as Matt said, if you just run that short one in on the right side and lose that top one, you're only giving up 1 point. So they are playing the
outturn
short
tap.
little run in. Discretion, the better part of valor already. It's floating out a little bit, though. It needs to come up. We'll get enough. Too thin, so ends up being a steal of 2 for Persinger and Plys. Looked like it was one you couldn't hit too thin, but they managed to just catch too little of that stone to move it far enough. And after one end of play, Persinger and Plys leading the Hamiltons 2-0. Second end of play here in this second draw for Pool A at the 2023 USA Curling Mixed Doubles National Championships. Start of the second end means it's time to talk to you about Warm Room Hero. Is your curling club website clunky and unworkable? Are you tired of your club relying on social media because your website just does not work for your members? Finally, the curling management software your club has been waiting for is here. Check out Warm Room Hero at curling.club today. Tyler George here this morning, along with USA Curling Board Chair Brett Jackson. And Brett, the Hamiltons in that first end elected to play the conservative shot, the correct shot, on their last, but just couldn't execute. End up giving up the steal of 2 they were trying to avoid.
Well, Vicky made a really great shot with her last in order to put them in a tough position, right? So, all credit goes to Chris and Vicky for playing a good end. And I'm sure the Hamiltons will get it back.
Yeah, no deficit safe in this format. Sure, not a lot of concern on the Hamilton side of things. Draw to the top of the forefoot there from Vicky Persinger to start this second end off in good position. And now seeing again that same side of the sheet, coasting deep all the way through the house. Brett, that is the theme early on. The in-turn odd numbered ends, out-turn even numbered ends. Both teams deep and heavy, a little on the wide side with that draw going to the back of the rings.
Yeah, so from our vantage point, we're facing a wall on the opposite side of the arena. We're on the side of the sheets, and the side of the sheet that's closest to us seems to be dramatically faster than the side that is on the wall side.
And this one looks like plenty of weight again for Chris on the same side of the sheet. Starting to turn over though. May bounce a little bit, but pretty good shot from Chris. I can't help but, I know we've talked about it already, but mention that it's so similar to the way it runs in Blaine, where it would be so frustrating with how much there's a difference in the curl based on just a couple feet of weight, as we see world champion, multiple-time Olympian Ann Swisshelm coaching the Hamilton squad. Talked with Ann last night, excited for the week, and hopefully get her up into the booth to join at some point, as well as obviously she has her announcing chops in the sport. But yeah, Brett, back to that curl. That was something that we talked about so much playing in Blaine, that you had to be so careful about the weight that you threw and try to throw to sweeping as much as possible when you're playing draws and soft weight shots, because of the difference in curl, even with the finesse shots.
I will admit freely that playing in there in a challenge round or two there at Blaine, I've been caught by that a few times.
I threw what I consider the worst curling shot of my entire life in the Blaine Club, based on what I was trying to play and what the result was. We were in the mixed doubles trials, I believe, playing with my sister Courtney, and we were trying to throw a draw under a corner guard, and there was a center guard in play, and I nose hit the center guard and hit it out. So it was basically a hack weight, maybe hack plus, and only 3 or 4 feet off the line that we were trying to end up on. Again, exacerbated by the fact that it was so weight sensitive, but that didn't change the fact that it was so bad we were both laughing about the shot after the fact. It's about all you can do.
Well, you can see this is on that same fast side, and you can see if you really put some great weight on it, it finishes so nicely.
Yeah, and that's
Vicky was able to carve that one right in there, have it sit right on top of shot rock, and
yeah, really well done there by Chris getting that position. Good shot making after the first shot of the end. You hear Chris talking about how hard it is to make dead freezes. And that's due to the striking bands being so live and the ice being that fast. So any little bump that the rocks have, you saw that barely nestled up to that red stone on the button. And there's still a foot of space between those two stones. So Chris is 100% right. Those live bands that, for the club curlers watching, if you made that exact same shot in your club, that rock's probably within 2 inches of where that ends up. But because it's almost like rubber on these bands, the freezes are so difficult, which definitely makes things more interesting for a mixed doubles game.
well, for someone who's not as familiar with the sport, they're rocks colliding, right? But to see them act like ping pong balls is really remarkable. I had the pleasure of talking to the mayor of Kalamazoo last night when we were in Denver for the men's and women's national championships. Some dignitaries that were visiting. Everyone's had questions about the sport, and when you explain it to them, everyone's just so impressed about how intricate, how complex curling is, and they really appreciated it after being able to get their questions answered and really understand what's going on.
Vicky trying to get this to turn over and get to the inside of this red stone. Looks like it's getting all the way across. Maybe even a little touch on that yellow stone, ends up right in that pocket. That's pretty good position. Yeah, Brett, I agree on that. One of the great things about the sport growing in our country and the exposure that it's gotten is that for a lot of people, the only time that they see curling is during the Olympics, and that's when the best in the world are doing it. So the game looks relatively simple for the average viewer that doesn't see the game very often. So they come out and try it because they think, well, yeah, then it looks like anybody can do this. And we welcome that. We want people to show up and try it. But the rationale is that if you only saw any sport when the best in the world were doing it, if it was golf or baseball or anything like that, these are sports that are played at the rec level that people see all the time at the amateur level. So it doesn't look as simple for them because they know it's not.
Right.
With curling, there is no frame of reference outside the Olympics for the vast majority of people watching. So it's a very rude awakening in a good way when they show up to a club and try it and think, yeah, this is nothing like what we saw on television. So, well, yeah, you should expect that. That's the best in the world. Of course we make it look easy. Nice shot there by Matt Hamilton, moving those around, getting those rocks off the button. In good position, 2 rocks above the tee line for the Hamiltons to use. Try to set up some kind of multi-point end here.
Yeah,
But that's the name of the game with these. That's you're just trying to set something up with the angles. So by the time you get to your final stone, you have some kind of opportunity to score multiple points.
Yeah, things still look really good for Chris and Vicky here. They're just getting a little bit better side of the inch, I think, and getting those rocks to finish. I think that it looks like they're dialing in the weight, especially on that fast side.
The conversation is about what they're going to leave the Hamiltons here. They know that they're going to leave something, so it's about which one they prefer to give them. Can't take everything away. So it sounds as though they're going to guard the red stone on the top of the 8-foot on this intern side for Vicky Persinger. Love having these mics available to hear that conversation now too. With nobody standing in the house predicting what shot is going to be coming down the sheet. Sometimes it's a pitfall for those of us in the commentary booth. I can speak to that from the Olympics, as we mentioned yesterday too. That's I don't speak a lot of other languages, so if there isn't a broom down and I can't tell what they're saying, then we can be wrong in a hurry on what shots they end up playing. That time we are correct. They do guard the tap on the intern side, so 2 shots for the Hamiltons available. We'll see what they talk about and what they're planning.
Well, they definitely couldn't guard everything, right? The Hamiltons had a shot both on the intern and the outturn side. So they elected to play the one, or they could the Hamiltons could really easily get rid of the yellow that's in the 4-foot, and instead have them. I think they're just gonna have to shave a quarter of the rock on the top of the 4-foot, the red rock, in order to try to get it to score.
Yeah, really, strangely enough, if Becca hits as much of this one as she did her last shot in the first, they probably get 2. They may just be playing it soft, so
yeah, it looks like it.
Really needs to curl again with the difference in weight. Now starting to come up. Looks like it's going to get a good piece of it. And a nice shot by Becca for the 1. And the safer play there again, Brett, playing that little slash. So thin, could easily give up a steal again. Important to get on the board for the Hamiltons, and they do. So after 2 ends of play, Persinger and Plys leading the Hamilton squad 2-1. third end of this morning draw, Pool A in the 2023 USA Curling Mixed Doubles National Championships. Vicky Persinger and Chris Plys leading Matt and Becca Hamilton 2-1 after 2 ends, and now have Hammer after that force of 1 in the second. Becca throwing the in-turn draw to start the end. This is the side we've seen run a little bit quicker and a little bit straighter. And when we say straight, certainly not straight side as much as straighter than the opposite side. Nice throw by Becca to the top of the fours.
Well, I know it's early on a Wednesday morning. It's draw 3, day 2 of the competition, and we cannot underemphasize how cool it is to have this game. You know, the last Olympic team, the last national champions facing off. Couldn't ask for a better matchup this morning.
Yeah, and from our side of things too, Brett, it's a very competitive game, but entertaining outside of the play, just getting to listen into the competitors who are very comfortable in this atmosphere and very familiar with each other. So a loose atmosphere that lasted all of one end until Matt got a little bit frustrated with how things were going, and now it's a little more intense again. So that kind of goes in waves in these types of games. That one ended up a little short from Vicky on that outturn side, but still a pretty good position. But an opportunity now for Matt Hamilton, if he can make this little tap on his own stone. Even a freeze wouldn't be bad. You heard Matt say short's okay, freeze is good. Chris Plys commenting on being surprised that they're a minute ahead of Matt and Becca. You're playing a little bit quicker, Chris. It's a good thing.
Well, it definitely seems like the lighter side is what Matt chose to do here.
Yeah, that's not to that degree I'm sure he was hoping, but ends up short and over curling. And the shot, Brett, that we've seen curl more than any other by far is the guard. So it really is exaggerated by the amount of weight you throw. You really don't have to take much difference in room for guards as you do for a draw to somewhere in the house, which is kind of a hallmark of ice of formerly Dave Stavatag as head iceman, and then now Sean Olison, I would call his disciple. I'm sure Sean wouldn't like it to be framed that way, but we always talked about with their ice that you very rarely had to change the broom for a draw to the button or a center guard that's a mid guard. The broom was very similar because it turned over so much earlier.
This one coming in nicely.
Well, that's a really good
Vicky
shot.
putting
there
it
from
right
Chris.
on the lid.
Draw
Good shot
game
by
on
Chris.
point for Chris Plys right now. And Brett, as a player too, you know that making shots like that early in a game, early in a tournament, where you feel like you have a good feel for the weight and the conditions, gives you so much more confidence and a rhythm going forward, where you're not trying to find the weight or the line. You have it early in the game and in the competition, then it's just a matter of repetition and execution after that.
Well, in mixed doubles, having touch is the key to success. And Chris seems to really have the touch right now. So does Vicky. I mean, Vicky, you know, put some great shots in so far. So they're feeling good. They're confident, and you can see it just how they're sliding down the ice right now.
Yeah, playing with pace, playing with confidence.
Really relaxed.
And Brett is somebody that did broadcasting for their Olympic Games too. The difference in their demeanor and the communication, the way that they're talking to each other, but still playing quickly and supporting each other. Part of it is the results come from that type of communication and body language, and part of it is the results creating that too. So it goes both ways, that you're playing more confidently and with more pace because of the little things you're doing, but you're also communicating and playing more quickly because of the way you're executing. So seeing it on both ends of things for Chris and Vicky right now.
And I don't know what you think about this, but they play next to each other, right? When they're in the hack together. It's not one person yelling instructions and trying to communicate across the entire ice. They're always together, and I think that fosters really good communication, and it's meant really good shot making.
That one over curls from Chris. He said he thought he was a little tight on the line. So a little bit of an opening now for Matt and Becca. Scoreboard on the screen says 2-0. It is 2-1. Persinger and Plys are leading here in the third end. Matt and Becca looking to get steal. See how that changes when I say so? It's like I can cue it up from my own voice. It's perfect. It's a lot of power. Certainly not that Jerry's not listening to me across on the other side of the table. So Hamilton playing the intern tap. Really could get a good setup here with positioning if they can get to almost nose this stone, just a little on the high side. Actually playing a little more weight at it, trying to clear this stone.
Yeah, this is at least board weight. Some rocks are going to move here.
Moves the back one too, but the all-important shooter ends up rolling to the outside 12-foot. Looks like Persinger and Plys might be second, third, and fourth, at the very least second and third.
Yeah, and this without the backing of the rock in the back four, this is quickly becoming a really dangerous end for the Hamiltons. If they can execute this hit and roll and have three rocks that are widely apart in the 8-foot, Matt and Becca are going to be under pressure.
A little surprised by the decision with the weight there, Brett?
I think so. I just think tapping is what was all that was needed right there. And maybe that points us to a little bit of frustration.
Great line here on this rock from Plys. He's got the finesse game going right now. Really well done. Perfect hack weight and great read on the line too. They made the adjustment, cutting that broom down significantly to make sure that they got that to come up a little bit. This being the final stone for the Hamiltons. We'll listen in and see how they plan on getting out of this.
So electing to do a hit and roll. The tricky part about this shot is there's really not a great place for them to hide. I think where Matt prefers is that they roll, stay on the tee line, almost all the way on the other side of the 4-foot, so that they don't have a really easy run back with that yellow in the top 8.
We heard a comment too from Chris, and this is a very well thought out, that the perfect roll would have been a couple more inches, because they would have had to play inside out. You see the difference in how the ice plays inside out so much. Hamilton holding this sweep. Will it get the roll? Oh, that's really well done by Becca. Only a tiny piece showing, and there is a short run in with that yellow-red, but pretty well done overall. So much harder, Brett, in mixed doubles, calling the line on those hit and rolls without somebody in the house. The shooter has to handle it on their own. And Becca did a pretty good job there, but again, with even Matt blocking the rocks that they're rolling behind with where he's at. Now, Becca can't really see where they're rolling to. She just has to remember, as the rock's coming down the sheet, where do we need to hit it based on what we talked about before, the shot and the weight that's being thrown. And with the striking bands as live as they are, it's a little bit thicker than what you would normally play too.
Yeah, a lot of club curlers wouldn't experience the kind of action and know the different angles that you have to have when you make those hit and rolls. And that's just something that, Chris and Vicky and Beck and Matt, with such experience at a, national world level, are able to make those judgments.
Final shot of the end for 3 or 4 here from Persinger. They said about hack weights what they're looking for. Line looks really good right
really
now.
Nicely.
It's all about if the shooter sits down. Does roll a little too far, but
2 for sure. We'll see if it's 3.
it's like they're gonna throw the sticks on for the 3rd point, so at least 2 for Vicky and Chris. Hamilton and the officials there, but looked to be a 3rd point for Persinger and Plys, so a 5-1 lead, we believe, after 3 ends of play.
Twin Cities Orthopedics is ready to go with more doctors, specialty services, and convenient urgent care locations. Ready, set, TCO.
Start of the 4th end of play. Second draw, Pool A of the 2023 USA Curling Mixed Doubles National Championships here in the Zoo, Kalamazoo Curling Club in Wings Event Center. 5-1. Persinger and Plys leading Matt and Becca Hamilton after score of 3 points. Nice shot by Vicky Persinger on her last. Tyler George here with Brett Jackson. Brett, we see the difference so far in this game. Just not a whole lot to analyze. Execution on the Persinger Plys side of things. Really good draw weight and good feel for the ice. And Matt and Becca just struggling a little bit with little on the deep side with a few, and still figuring out the ice from side to side on the sheet. Looks like the difference in the weight on the two sides too.
Yeah, with curlers at this level, the strategy discussion and choices are not going to be the problem, right? It's just going to come down to execution. And so far, Chris and Vicky have been able to really dial in. But that shot right there was really fantastic by Becca and put it right in the top 4. Good position, and away we are.
Well placed draw there from Becca. Top of the button, good position. And Brett, I can't let it slip by that I'm now 2-0 on measurement calls this week too. That may be the last time I get to claim a 100% execution on the calls from the overhead view.
I've got faith in you, Tyler.
That makes one of us with that, just based on all the history of ever being in the booth and doing these things. It's a crapshoot, but I'll take it. 2 for 2. Staggering with that draw to the top of the 8-foot. Not a bad position. Again, as we've mentioned numerous times, the first couple games of the competition, the best defense in mixed doubles is still continuing to play offense. There really is no other way to defend than to keep drawing and keep attacking. Number one, because you can't take any rocks out of play for the first 3 shots of the end. And number two, because that's just the style of play, that those rocks starting out in play with a center guard and a rock behind the tee line, you really have no choice but to continue to draw to start out. So that team that's ahead without hammer has to throw their first 2 shots without taking anything out of play. So in order to maintain that lead, you have to beat your opponents to that position. And by the time you can peel anything out, there's 5 rocks in play at least, if not 6. A little more frustration from Matt as that one ends up short on the wide side.
I think Matt and Becca are still in a good position. That first rock by Chris just overcurled a little bit, so it's not as usable as it could be if it was a little bit further out. So I think what they're trying to do here is they're trying to split that rock, put the rock that's already in the top 8 on one side of the center line, have another one on the other side, so that they'll have choices going forward to remove the red rock at the top 4.
Hear a lot of weight right now. Vicky calling. Definitely turning over, though. A little closer to the center line. So taking a turn a little bit earlier. Not a bad position again. Just really trying to prevent Hamilton from having a multiple point end. So your hacked back line call.
So Tyler, as we're waiting for this shot to come down, I want to congratulate you on the birth of your nephew.
Yeah, I know my sister's watching at home now, so she appreciates that. My nephew Xander, I believe now 1 day short of 11 months old, April 2nd being his birthday. So coming up on a year, kid's standing on his own and getting real close to walking. So mom and dad's life going to get real interesting sometime in the next few weeks, I would think.
Wow, the touch to go through that port to knock the yellow back into the back 8. Really fantastic shot by Matt.
Anybody looking to get my nephew presents for his first birthday? Really, anything he can throw, he'd be happy with at this point. He's very good at chucking things with both hands, so we're gonna have to tie that right arm behind his back pretty soon to make sure he stays a lefty for our situational reliever purposes. Just looking around at the other sheets, we have a 6-ender on sheet B. Fountain and Cott with 6 in the 4th to take a 7-2 lead on Rohrbacher and Skebby. Rare occasion that we see essentially the immaculate end with 6 points.
Yeah, it happens a little more often in mixed doubles than it would in 4-person curling, but still it's a game changer. But with the way mixed doubles are, you can still come back after giving up a 6-ender, especially with 4 ends to go.
Yes, as you said, Brett, not as rare as the 8-ender in men's and women's, but still a very rare occasion to see a 6-end point score. Plys playing this out-turn tap. Hamilton's with a little bit of an end going. That bump ends up in a very good spot, though.
Yeah, I agree with Becca. Another kind of back 8, back line shot. You can tap that yellow rock to the back 8 again, and
I agree there, Brett. They can still move that stone with the in-turn as much as it curls, even though it's a little bit on the over-buried side. Still looking at playing that tap as of now, trying to possibly set up a bigger end, but also talking about playing the in-off. Brett, if they can ever get to 3/4 of that yellow stone in the top of the forefoot with a back 12 type of weight, tap that back, that's, I believe, their best chance of setting up a possible 3 or 4 point end if they can get there.
well, if it's there, it's going to be on this side of the sheet, whereas you said the other side of the sheet seems to be a little bit straighter.
And this looks a little tight out of hand, too, from Matt. Becca trying to hold it to get by.
He's got one of the best sweepers in the business. If anyone could have kept that, it would be Becca.
It does end up wrecking the guard, but opens things up, and Matt's not too disappointed with that result. Does open it up for possible last shot. Just as a former teammate, Brett, you don't see it all the time, but if there is a tendency on Matt's in-turn with soft weight, it tends to be a little bit on the tight side, which is not a bad thing. You can hold that with sweep too. That did end up over curling and wrecking the guard. That was definitely pro side for that shot though too. Again, even Matt said that might be better than making the shot we were playing, just opening it up for the last one. So a good result. I'm sure they were playing an either or type on that.
Yeah, I think the shot that they ideally would love to play is a nose on the yellow in the top 4. The way the angle's set up, both the yellows would go, the red in the middle would stay, and they could get a really nice multiple point end.
This has a long ways to go to get to the right line for the guard. These guards really do warp at the end. It's finishing hard. Will it get all the way to the center?
Oh, good sweeping.
Touches the center line. That was swept a long ways. Is there a possible run in here? Yellow, yellow, red, yellow. To lose all three of those. Both teams really low on time already too, Brett, looking at these clocks. Down to about 8 minutes now and counting for Matt and Becca after starting with 23, and just over 9 minutes for Chris and Vicky. We heard Chris say, well, we're still a minute ahead of them. So that is important, and you're going to see some pace in the second half of this game with the amount of clock that both teams have run. Final stone of this first half of the game. Becca Hamilton, the possible run in on that yellow stone for multiple points, depending on how many they can get moving. Needs to get up a little bit to make contact. It's very close. Oh, it just whiskers that stone, but does end up being a single for Matt and Becca. Fourth end break. It's brought to you by Warm Room Hero, the intuitive curling club software that takes the stress out of schedules, registrations, and more. Warm Room Hero, a platform built for curlers by curlers. Check out Warm Room Hero at curling.club today. And going into that fourth end break, Vicky Persinger and Chris Plys leading Matt and Becca Hamilton 5-2.
Let's say you're in high school and there's a sport you like, but sometimes you think, you know, it might be cool to try a new sport.
Twin Cities Orthopedics is ready to go with more doctors, specialty services, and convenient urgent care locations. Ready, set, TCO.
Brett, definitely seeing a difference in energy and body language for both of these teams for the first half. Chris and Vicky really with the better vibe, the better pace. The Hamiltons really struggling a little bit, but you see the energy start to turn a little bit at the end of that fourth end where Matt's starting to get things going again and using their power play to start the second half down by 3 points are Persinger and Plys. So a good way to slow momentum, try to put up a multiple point end and take a big lead going into the final 3 ends of the game here for Persinger and Plys.
So many different choices on a power play on how to play against it. And Matt and Becca really trying to go aggressive, throwing up the center guard and giving them a chance to draw behind it later on, because of course that center guard can't be moved for a few rocks.
So the center guard is the choice for Matt and Becca starting out this end. You see I'm not sure if they were trying to play the draw underneath the corner and just didn't curl enough, but ends up just tapping that red stone in the top of the forefoot and leaving the center. So just about worst case scenario to start out for Chris and Vicky, even though that rock is open. Chris making sure again on when they're able to hit, and his math is correct, they'll be able to remove stones after this shot by Hamilton. Pardon the bit of conversation in the background there with getting our audio ready for the final 4 ends.
So Matt choosing to throw a center guard up, try to double guard to make it a little harder as Chris tries to clean things up. Chris and Vicky just looking to keep this end open, not getting into trouble. Really set the tone, as you said, for the last 4 ends.
Yeah, it's not how they wanted this end to start out, with chasing Matt and Becca after tapping that stone in, but really trying to make sure that they score no matter what in this end. And this one running straight on Chris on that out-turn side. And again, a little difference in the weight. That rock ended up coasting by. Maybe a little bit more weight than Chris wanted to throw, I think. It's a good opportunity for Matt and Becca to go on the offensive. You heard that Christmas tree reference from Matt, Brett. For those that don't know, it means trying to come around these guards and show half of their stone and half of the back one. Just like the edges of a Christmas tree, tapered downwards, so you can't take both stones out, and all you can do is hit the outside of either one. This one hanging a little bit now too. This is the line that really we've seen more curl on before, but that really ended up kind of running on that line, so maybe a little straighter and a little quicker out of the break, possibly. We did always comment on that in the men's and women's throughout. That's out of the break, after the mop, a little faster, a little straighter. That may be the case.
No, I think so here. And there's a relatively easy double, at least to clear those 2 stones, you know, with the guard staggered right above the house. There's still going to be a great chance for Matt and Becca to come behind and put some pressure.
And double made perfectly by Plys and
and the
rolls to the outside.
Yeah, no, it's a great shot.
Perfectly done. Outturn double for Chris. I'll lay some dollars on that any day of the week.
And a good controlled weight too, right? He didn't overthrow it to get the double. He, really wanted to keep that rock, the shooter in the house, and it's perfect.
Yeah, that's a huge difference in the end too, with now playing for a 2 or a 3 as opposed to rolling out. And Matt and Becca are playing the draw regardless, but playing it against a multiple point end as opposed to just the 1 is a huge difference. Good sweep there by Becca to get that rock by. Trying not to come out the other side with how much that's curling now, and I think they can probably get there with hack weight. Really close to the guard. They can also just try to double, but Chris is talking about either or.
Well, the way the angles line up, they might even have an in-off if they really, really get desperate.
Yeah, Chris saying double peel is the call just to open that up.
Yeah, you can definitely see that time's a factor now. Both teams a little bit behind, and
needs to get up a little bit to move both of these off, and that's perfect by Plys.
yeah, well done.
That's where that upweight game is so valuable. Chris to his teammate, that's how it's done. Well, he's right. It is how it's done. You make them that good, you get to talk a little bit. And that's professional stuff too, Brett, for getting the first one. Flashing that hit and then making the next 2, the double and then the double peel. To get this end set up again. And the conversation now with the Hamiltons was about either drawing in the house to protect against big end or risking by playing the guard, and Becca kind of talking Matt into playing the guard because of the scoreboard.
Well, this one's definitely a little heavy. Coming right in. It's even going to be in the 4-foot.
This is trouble depending on where it ends up. Matt saying no double there. Becca saying, yeah, that's a hard one. Having some fun with it at the very least. So just off nose, good enough for Vicky Persinger here for the double to score 3 more. Very important shot, obviously, here. Plys sticking around to sweep. Last rock of this 5th end. Hanging out a little bit. Needs to get up.
Yeah, and I think some curlers would overthrow this rock. I think she threw really great weight. And whether or not they stick around was really irrelevant. Going up 2 at this point in the game is really big.
Does end up being a 2 after the rollout from Persinger, and score now after 5 ends of play. Persinger and Plys leading the Hamilton squad 7-2.
The everyday person may not aspire to be a professional athlete or an Olympic athlete. You may just want to be the best person you can be. You just may want to sleep better. You may want to feel better. Thorne has many products that can support all of those things. So it's not just about performing or running faster or jumping higher. It's those little things that go into having a higher quality of life.
Start of the 6th here. Tell you about our friends at Floor Curl. Thanks to them, USA Curling member clubs are entitled to a 20% discount on any Floor Curl inflatable rink set. These rinks only take a minute to inflate or deflate and are the perfect way to promote your club at summer festivals, events, or anywhere you have a flat surface. No ice required. Visit usacurling.floorcurl.com. Use the promo code FCInflatable20. That's usacurling.floorcurl.com. Promo code FCInflatable20. Start of this 6th end, Tyler George and Brett Jackson here from Kalamazoo, Michigan. Power play being used by Team Hamilton, trying to get back in this game, but a perfect tick shot to start the end by Vicky Persinger. Take a look around the other scores. Fountain and Cott again with that 6-ender in the 4th, and is following it up with a steal in the 5th, leading 8-2 over Rohrbacher and Skebby. Sheet C, Kim Rhyme, Jason Smith up 6-1 over Todd and Regan Burr. And on sheet E, a shutout, Eileen Geving and John Schuster with the 9-0 bagel on Claire Moores and Lance Wheeler. So some big ends flying around this morning, Brett. Things opening up a little bit from what we saw last night. And our feature sheet here as well with that shot by Vicky Persinger. Oh, so important, starting the end off, clearing that guard, pushing it into the rings.
Yeah, Chris and Vicky just trying to keep it open, be able to hit. Once they get with their next rock, they'll be able to start hitting, and they'll be able to, clear some red rocks out and prevent a big comeback this end.
Plys now throwing the draw to the 8-foot. Again, not able to hit until the next shot in this end, so lobbing another counter in, another one for Matt and Becca to deal with. You hear Matt talking about guarding for now. Just trying to find a way to get a 2 or a 3, get back in this game.
I think Chris really smart, putting that rock somewhat close to the setup rock that Red has in the side of the house, because if Matt and Becca were to hit it, the rocks are going to be somewhat close together, and that maybe gives them a double later on. So really smart, probably underrated move by Chris to put it, over there, and to make it shot rock to force Matt and Becca to deal with it eventually.
So interesting line here now. Brett, we haven't really seen anything thrown out here throughout this game. It's the very beginning, it'll be on the draw path, but once it gets a third of the way down the sheet, this will be on fresh ice that we really haven't seen played. So Chris talking about hack weight, I'm guessing he's going to throw at least that just to be sure, as this really won't have been played the entire morning.
Yeah, I saw some teams in the practices after the last game last night practice this shot, and just to see what it would do, right? So that when they needed to, in this particular situation, they'd know where to put the broom, how much weight to throw, and it just comes down to execution at this point.
And does end up over curling. But pro side to move the guard at the very least. Open that up and did not tick it to a point where it was guarding the other red stone, which is a good break. So pro side from Chris there. Chris remarking about you could only see a quarter of that stone and really didn't want to go by it, so was definitely throwing it to the inside of that broom. And with that 5-point lead again, you still have 2 more shots left in the end to try to eliminate as many as you can. You're sitting shot rock and third count, it appears, from the overhead.
We talk so much at the club level about pro side misses. And I think that that's a great example of what you're talking about, right? Is Chris electing to play it tight, chip the guard, open it up, rather than just miss the shot completely because he can only see a quarter.
And maybe a little bit of miscommunication there. Matt calling for the sweep as that took off, and I don't think Becca heard him right away from the conversation they had. And that overrolls by just a couple inches, so a big difference in where that ended up and where it could have been.
Well, I think there was a lot of weight thrown on that shot too. I don't know if he needed quite that much in order to get the roll that he was looking for.
Well, even with a couple licks, that ends up perfect. So hard to say. This one really turning over now. See if this sticks around. Looks like it may roll out of the 8-foot. So it does appear that yellow is shot rock. So there is a backline shot, as Matt's saying here, to cross that just a touch, bump it back, and possibly sit 3. Really important shot here. If Matt can hit about 3/4 of this red stone on the inside, just with that back line through the house type of weight, roll underneath the center guard and bump that yellow out of count, it could sit 3.
Yeah, I think rolling behind the center guard is the key in this shot. I mean, obviously you want to move the yellow counter just back just a little bit, but getting your rock buried in a position of strength is going to be really key.
That's maybe just good enough. At least sitting 2, maybe 3. The number 1 wide open.
Given your track record measurements, I'll take your eagle eye on whether that yellow or red is the third counter.
Hey, can't argue with results. 100% is 100%. Now, ideally, there's no more measurements the rest of the week. So
just
I
finish
don't
out on
have
top.
Yeah, I don't have to ruin that record. What do you think the odds are of that with only about 40 more games to go?
And all the rocks in the 4-foot, 8-foot button area, right?
Yeah. This one taking a turn now on Vicky. Line's very close,
Again,
though.
soft, controllable weight. Chris able to, get a good hit off of it.
A little unfortunate. Rolls probably to the worst spot they could roll to.
Yeah, I think they wanted to roll under a little bit.
Matt thinks the shooter's going to spin up here with how much weight they have to play to clear that yellow stone. So probably just for 2. Because they're, Brett, staggered just a little bit with that yellow rock, a couple inches higher. If they were dead even with each other, this shot would be for 3. But because they have to hit the yellow one first here in order to at least get 2, the shooter may kick up out of the 8-foot. So we'll see what kind of action it gets, but Matt seems to think that this is only for 2. I think it's very close if they hit just the right spot, but likely kicks back up out of the 12s, or out into the 12s. We'll see.
And I think part of the reason it might spring up is because the rocks have so much action. This looks really good.
It's really close. And does spin up just as Matt thought it would. I think that's the best that Becca could do there. So It is 2 for red. And after those 2, Persinger and Plys now leading Matt and Becca Hamilton 7-4 after the 6th end.
Just because you're not a professional athlete doesn't mean that you should accept less. The beauty about what Thorne does is our product quality is the same whether they're in the athletic line or whether they're just for the everyday person. Thorne has kept true to never compromising on quality, never compromising on efficacy, never compromising on safety for not only athletes but for everyone who would use their products.
Start of the 7th end here at the 2023 USA Curling Mixed Doubles National Championships. Time to tell you one more time about Warm Room Hero. It's more than just software. It's run by curlers dedicated to building long-term relationships with your club. Warm Room Hero provides continuous support to ensure your website exceeds your members' expectations. Check out Warm Room Hero today at curling.club for special event pricing. At the start of this 7th end, Vicky Persinger and Chris Plys with a 3-point lead and hammer. Really important just to try to get on the scoreboard in any way now. Matt and Becca Hamilton need to find a steal and be going all out to do so. Tyler George here with USA Curling chair and extremely accomplished curler in his own right, Brett Jackson. It bears mentioning, Brett, you're not just a suit. We see you on the ice still plenty of times. Although that suit coat you had last night, that was some classy stuff there. And the tie combo, the lanyard, the belt, and the shoes all matching too. That's a guy that's put together.
Well, I appreciate it. Coming from you, that's high praise.
I was pretty proud of my suit game for the Olympics. Not seeing a whole lot of that this week yet.
It's okay. I think Kalamazoo is a really casual place, right?
So you were business casual. There were jeans involved still, but everything went together. And this is my chance for the free pop for Pursuits out of Columbus, Ohio. Nate DeMars, who always outfitted Team Schuster, still does, I believe, but did all my wardrobe for the Olympic Games, and I have never felt so sharp in my life. Best in the business. So maybe we'll work that in the future. Maybe Pursuit, the official suit company of USA Curling.
There you go. We love.
Nate, if you're listening, let's get that going.
We'll love the sponsorship.
They're the best in the biz, no question. Anybody looking for formal wear of any kind, I always direct them to Pursuit. Nate originally from Duluth, Minnesota, too.
So maybe a scoreboard update, as we said earlier. Ryman Smith finished the game 7-2 over the Burrs. On the sheet closest to us, Harley and Vince playing Fountain and Cott. Harley and Vince scored 2 in the 6th and are down by 4. Fountain and Cott electing to do the power play, so we'll keep you updated on the progress there. And then the feature sheet still going.
Becca trying to hold the line here on this in-turn draw from Matt Hamilton. Great sweep again from Becca. She's had a number of those during this game that have gotten by, just by an inch, half inch. So even though they're down 3, score maybe could be a lot more lopsided if not for some great sweeps by Becca. You see the clocks there as well, with this being the last 2 ends of play. Both teams now under 3 minutes. playing at a pretty good clip here in this end to try to save some time for the 8th if needed. Plys throwing the high hard one, trying to open things up here or possibly make the run either way. And that moves around a pile of stones. Does leave a center guard and a rock in the top of the 12-foot. So with all that weight, still hit just the perfect spot to leave 2 of those on the center line. The Hamilton's sitting 1 on the back of the button. Now, this is the pace we like, Brett. Fast and furious. Keeping up in the booth the best we can with the rate they're playing at.
I think when you're rushing with with time problems as both teams are having, really being able to dial in the weight and have the touch to throw a draw shot like that is so important, because you're amped up. You've got to you got to go, and to be able to throw it with such finesse is a key of the really successful teams.
And sometimes, Brett, and with the pace they're playing at right now, it might be a little bit over the top. But when you're playing, I don't want to say fast, but with pace, you're not thinking about it as much. Sometimes you're just executing, and it's muscle memory. That definitely was not the case there for Chris, as that one coasts through and definitely opens the door up for Matt and Becca. But with that pace, sometimes you execute better just because you're not overthinking. But when you feel like you're having to play fast like this, it can be the opposite.
So Becca with a great chance here to draw right on top and freeze on the stone on the button. And Chris and Vicky will be in a really tough spot.
This may be the fastest end to curling I think I've ever called at this point. We're already on the last shot of the end coming up right now. See another final on sheet B. Fountain and Cott take the victory. We'll see what the final score ends up being, but handshakes and hugs. Those 4 close friends believe they're staying together during the competition this week too. The hallmark of our sport. Competitors ending up sharing housing. A very tight-knit group out there. Really enjoyed having Vince in the booth last night too. Did a great job. You can tell that the lawyer speak comes out with Vince too. The explaining is never an issue. The detail and everything. He's a really bright guy that understands the game very well too.
I've gotten to know them quite a bit. We've both traveled to a number of spiels in Canada together. The one in Cincinnati a couple weeks ago. Just really great people, and you find that in curling anywhere, right? It's just, curlers are just such amazing people, and those types of friendships where you can be your hard competitors on the ice, but still friends off, and even share rooms or certainly rides is important.
That ends up being a steal of 1 for Matt and Becca, and somehow this end is already over. And does cut the deficit to 2, so not out of the realm of possibility now. Going to the 8th end, Persinger and Plys leading 7-5 over Matt and Becca Hamilton.
The everyday person may not aspire to be a professional athlete or an Olympic athlete. You may just want to be the best person you can be. You just may want to sleep better. You may want to feel better. Thorne has many products that can support all of those things. So it's not just about performing or running faster or jumping higher. It's those little things that go into having a higher quality of life.
Eighth end of play here in the second draw for Pool A, the 2023 USA Curling Mixed Doubles National Championships, Kalamazoo, Michigan, at the Wings of Ed Center. Tyler George and Brett Jackson on the call here. And Brett, we're seeing a breakneck pace from these two teams with the clocks where they're at. Now 1:21 remaining for Vicky and Chris. 2:33, which looks like a mountain of time compared to their opponents, for Matt and Becca Hamilton. So we're going to see the same for this last end. Both teams with a timeout, so they can stop the clock when they need to talk a little more. And see the pace, I believe, is starting to affect the execution here too for both teams. A couple deep draws by Chris and Vicky, and Matt and Becca maybe with an opportunity now to put together a multiple point steal and extend this game.
Yeah, it's really important that this shot remains in the top of the house. Really start putting some pressure on Chris and Vicky. And Chris already going with the high hard one, peeling things out, opening it up. I'm sure he wanted to touch some rocks in the house, but just peeling it out of the way is the real conservative way to go. Good start to the end.
Yeah, and that's one you don't really have to take as much time with either. If you're Chris, just going and firing that thing, he can do that in his sleep. So almost helps in this situation to be the team ahead, so you know what you're trying to accomplish, opening things up. And as of now, if they can play this out so that they keep making these single peels, it'll be interesting to see where Matt and Becca decide to put the final stone of the end. If they come right in and force Vicky to play against the three, or if they guard and play for the steal. It looks like they left enough that Chris will have a go at this, and at least losing one and possibly both of those reds, which would make things a lot easier going to the final few shots of this game.
Yeah, Becca did all she could to try to carve that over.
Catches a little thin. So loses one, but as long as they execute simple shots, Brett, that should take the loss out of the picture on their final shot now.
Yeah, I don't think you can quite Christmas tree. We talked about that earlier. I don't think you can quite Christmas tree this one enough to cover all of the back one. So at the very minimum, you know, Vicky should have a hit, relatively open hit to keep the game.
Out-turn draw coming around the guard for Matt. Line looks good. They don't want to overbury now and come out the other side. Still a pretty good spot. Just showing maybe a third. Looks like Chris is going to have a go at playing the guard back and seeing if they can make contact with one of the other two. But main thing, just to make sure that guard goes away. Plys with the out-turn run. One of his favorites here. Trying to make contact with one of those back two. Oh, that's perfectly done by Plys. Rolls the shooter to the corner. Again, that out-turn up weight, that's where you want him to be. Well done again. That might be a game winner there.
Yeah, that set was pretty good for Chris and Vicky. They have 41 seconds left on the clock. They still have a timeout to use. It's going to get tight, but They should be able to make it to the end here. No real discussion needed from Matt and Becca. It's just put another one in the house. And really, they're just hoping for a miss.
Yeah, such an important shot there from Chris. If they don't make contact with one in the house, then you would have seen Matt and Becca throw a third one in somewhere. So without there being an easy double to play, it would have been a hit and stick on the last instead of just contact for Vicky. That's what she'll have now. And these are important now, Brett, not to play this as an either or, but just to pick a rock and hit it because of where they're staggered. You never know, if you throw just at the middle of the two, if it just barely touches that top stone, keeps it in the house and redirects and misses the back. That's the only way that you can miss this shot, if you throw at the middle of them. So really just pick one, throw solid weight, take the ice out of it.
And Chris and Vicky electing to take the timeout right here, just so they can take their time. Vicky can get set up, do her normal shot routine, not rush, and execute an excellent shot.
So if made, this will be the final shot of this game. Vicky Persinger, Chris Plys looking to improve to 2-0 on the week. Vicky playing the out-turn pass, playing peel weight to take the ice out. Again, making sure it doesn't touch that other stone, and easily made by Vicky. Sticks around for the one for good measure. And they'll hang that point, and final score of this game will be Persinger and Plys 8. Hamilton and Hamilton 5. You see the two buddies bumping fists and talking about what they're going to have for lunch already. So again, Brett, the pace of those last few ends, that's about as fast as you can curl. And it definitely affected the execution a little more on the end of things for Persinger and Plys, with a few misses late to allow Matt and Becca to have a chance to get back in that game. But the difference early on, better execution in the draw game for Chris and Vicky, and then that big run back by Chris in the final end, removing one of those two stones as well as the guard to make sure that the final shot was just contact for the win.
Yeah, excellent job by Chris and Vicky. They kept it together. As I said, or as you said, I think the key to them is they figured out the ice a little bit quicker than the Hamiltons did. And that allowed them to be really aggressive, get a lead early, and then, they executed just enough to win the game. But both teams played great. Excited to see what they have to do the rest of the tournament here. And, there's still so much more to go, right? We're only on day 2, draw 3 of this mixed doubles national championship here at the Kalamazoo Curling Club. And great week shaping up to come.
We'll be back at 12:30 Eastern time for draw 2 for Pool B. Feature game will be Corey Teesey and Corey Dropkin against Sarah Anderson and Andrew Stapera from the Wings Event Center here in Kalamazoo, Michigan, the Kalamazoo Curling Club. Tyler George and Brett Jackson signing off. We'll see you this afternoon.